What's the most memorable experience after that incident?
Oh wow, man, there's so many. There's so many. I think probably Bobby Paudert coming to the scene and hugging me. That I'd say that one probably stands out the most.
Part 2 picks up where Part 1 left off, with Mike Neal 16 years later still carrying May 20th.
So I want to go back just like Craig just went back. Let's talk about your wife and this anniversary. So all of this story that we're talking about, this just happened May 20th. You get married on May 20th. What did Chief Paudert and some other folks ever say to you about you deciding to get married on that same day?
We're only 2 years in, and I haven't heard anything from the chief, and a lot of people don't realize that that's my anniversary. We had a false anniversary set in August, but we had actually kind of eloped, if you will, on May 20th, and we kind of kept it quiet. And I didn't do it to offend anyone. I did it for me to try to help me cope through the day, honestly, to bring some joy. I finally found someone, in my life that gives me the support that I need. The soft spot, to come home to.
Did she ever give you any pushback about that and say why that date?
She laughed and she said, "Well, you'll make sure you won't miss our anniversary. That's for sure." But no, she understood. She got it. She's pretty special. So
tell us about her.
We've known each other for probably about 15 years, and crossed paths throughout the years. But I got divorced at 19, and then she got divorced, and they just all kind of clicked and fell together. Timing was right, and it's been a life-changing event. I never understood how good a marriage could be until you get the right one. And this one's the right one. So
that's awesome. You needed that in your life. You needed that.
Yeah, absolutely. She stood right there with me all last week, the police week, and that support is invaluable. I promise you, it's an amazing thing.
So when she stood there by you at the museum, how proud was she?
Probably more proud than me. Yeah, she's super proud of her husband.
I have to ask, what was her feeling like when she first saw that truck with dozens of bullet holes through the windshield, knowing that you were on the other side of it? That had to hit her hard.
It did, and it got me too. But I think it humbled her to actually see the truck. She's seen pictures of it, but that last week was the first time that she saw it in person. That got to see just how bad it really was. Seeing it in person is a lot different from seeing pictures or videos of it. That's for sure.
I'm so glad that you thought to put that truck in that museum. At the time, at that luncheon, when you mentioned it to me, I'm like, this story is incredible, but a truck in a museum, I hadn't seen the truck. I didn't know how many bullet holes there were in it or anything else. But, I am so glad that you had that vision and that it came to life. And by the way, the people that installed our exhibits in the National Law Enforcement Museum told me that putting that truck up on that pedestal in the museum was the hardest part of building that museum. It was even tougher than putting the helicopter there hanging from the rafters.
Oh, wow.
So,
I think they used
but it was worth it
or something to lift it up, didn't they, or something like that?
Oh, it was incredible. But what a statement it makes, right? I mean, to me, I'm seeing this as a civilian again. I've never been a cop, never worn the badge. But to think what you all have to deal with at times, right? I mean, it can be, a very normal, boring day most of the time. and then boom, within seconds, you're in the middle of a shootout with, people that have no respect for the laws of this country or the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And it's just amazing to me that officers are willing to do what you did that day, and that truck tells that story to the American people, right? That our officers are willing to assume these risks, life and death moments, for the safety of others. And so that gets me to my question, which is, okay, you hear about these two killers that are on the loose. You're miles and miles away. It would have been easy, I think, for you as a wildlife officer to kind of let other people take charge and deal with it. But you took it on your own to end this mayhem and this murderous rampage. I mean, what is going through your mind when you heard that call go out and you decided, I'm going to be the one to stop it?
It goes back farther than that. I had always had the burn in me. I've always, for lack of better words, felt something coming within inside my soul, honestly. And it led up to that day. The doors throughout my careers that opened and closed are pretty phenomenal to lead to the May 20th shooting. There was no reason for me to be there. Just like you said, I was a game warden. I had no business even being there. But it was, I was used as an instrument, honestly. That's the best way I can put it. I was a guardian angel that was taking control and putting me where I needed to be to stop a bad situation. But when that call went out, 2 officers down, it was put out. It was an MS-13 gang. It was a hit on the drug interdiction team. It was a really bad deal, and it was inside me like a fire. I had to be there. I'm one of those kind of guys, I guess true leaders are born with it. It's something that's in you. You don't really, I'm sure you can bring it out in any person, but for the ones that it's inside them are the cops that are out here doing it every day. They're putting their life on the line for complete strangers. And this was kind of one of those deals. That call went out. I knew I had to be there because I know what I'm doing. I don't know if you know what you're doing, but I know I do. Let me go first, So I'll go through the door first. Move out of the way. I'm that kind of guy. I always have been. Played football my entire, high school growing up. Headhunter. I always.
I bet you were a linebacker.
I was a middle linebacker and a defensive end. Yes, sir. I was one of those. If I hit you harder, it don't hurt
like
me.
To hit.
Yeah, I like to hit people. But getting out of that, I'm getting a little old. My bones break anymore. It hurts. So I still get in fights as a sheriff. I wound up in the hospital about a year ago out of a fight, broke my hand, but it happens. But that day,
yeah, go ahead.
No, that day I had to be there, and I could not get there fast enough. And if you stop and really listen to the story and how things went, I got there too quick. That old game and fish truck run 140, and I had her stretched out. What I'd done is I'd called my sergeant. I told him a little bit of a white lie. I said, "Hey, Sarge, I know what's up. I'm pretty close. Can I come help?" Well, I was game warden close. And I don't know if you see game wardens. You never see game wardens. That's how close I was. I was over an hour away. And he said, "Yeah, get up here as fast as you can." And I was like, "Green light, here we go." You just gave me permission to run lights and sirens as fast as I can. And that's what I did. But when I got into town, I was running out of gas in my truck. It was one of those moments, hey, it's where God kind of grabbed me and said, like, "Hey, stupid, slow down. Hang on just a second here." Pull the reins back a little bit. And I pulled into the gas station, and I didn't even know where I was at. It was a gut punch is what I needed, but not like a squirrel, something shiny over here, something shiny over there. I'm that kind of guy. But I pulled in that gas station. I was getting gas, and I'd stopped at the Horizon Shell gas station at the 275-mile marker. Had no idea. And as I'm gassing up that truck, I realize where I'm at. And I see 2 officers down. I was right there at the crime scene. It was right in front of me. And it was a humbling moment. It was also a moment of, this is real. This isn't training. This is real life. This is what you've prepared for. Get your mind right. and get in a fight, you know. And when I pulled out of that gas station, I drove over that overpass to look down on that crime scene. And I'm going to tell you, it put a burn in my soul that I've never felt before. And I get adrenaline running right now just thinking about it. And I remember thinking, we got to fix this. You know, cops were fixers. You know, that's what we are. As a cop, you're there to fix something. You know, when you're called to a scene, you have to fix something. And
Well, for you, and I remember you threw your rifle across your chest. You slung your rifle as you left that gas station, and you decided you were going to go into the hunt.
Yeah, I was hunting. Well, yeah, game warden's a hunter. He hunts people. He hunts the hunter. He's the ultimate hunter, a game warden is. And I'd honestly put that rifle on 40 minutes before. When I pulled over on the side of the road and got the green light to go, I started preparing myself. And I put an old vest on. I didn't have my good vest on because that morning I got up and it was hot and I didn't want to wear it. I thought, I don't need that, you know, and I left it at the house. But luckily, I have enough equipment in my truck for everybody. And I put one of my old vests on and I pulled that rifle down and I hung it right here, and started driving. And when I left that gas station, you're exactly right. It was time to fix this, you know. And as I was waiting, man, I had my hand on my rifle the whole time. I'm hunting, you know, I'm looking for a stolen white church van. That's what they put it out as, you know, and that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, crazy. And I'll tell you what, you know, and I just want to say it just flat out, straight as it is. You went on the hunt and you dispatched two pieces of shit to the greatest depths of hell, just where we all believe they deserve it, and where they definitely will live the rest of their evil lives.
Yeah, their evil will not torment anyone else here on earth. That's for sure.
Yeah. You know, Mike, I'm confused though. You mentioned you were an hour away when you first got the call. I assume that was the two cops that had been shot and killed, and apparently nobody knew exactly where these murderers had gone at that point. There was a couple hours where they kind of were disappeared. And now everybody's looking for them. Is that when you decided to get to the chase? And why? I'm just aghast, really, that if you were able to get there, you know, from an hour away, why weren't other officers already on the scene? Why hadn't they already dealt with these two? What was the delay?
Well, you know, it's the same in every one of these mass incidents you see across the U.S. No matter which one, if it's Pulse nightclub or the Sikh temple shooting or you know, the bombing in San Bernardino. The biggest breakdown in law enforcement is communication, and incorrect communication and information is the death of a cop. Is what it boils down to. That's what gets cops killed, and that was a breakdown that day. The information that they were putting out is you're looking for a stolen white church van with a house of God and prayer written on the side of it. So you picture that in your mind. What do you see? One of those 15-passenger Ford vans with a house of God and prayer written on the side, right? That's what you think of as a church van. What we were looking for was a dirty white piece of crap, wore out Plymouth Voyager. Nothing of the sorts that we were told. So everybody's out hunting a church van, where this little van is sneaking around through town. Nobody's paying any attention to it. And they're hiding in the Walmart parking lot. They were there twice, not just once, but twice. They were there right after the shooting, where the boy went in. He was in there for 15, 20 minutes shopping, and the dad was outside. And a patrol unit drives right by him, never sees him, because that's not what he's looking for. That's not the information that he was given. Mm-hmm. If you would have said, you're looking for a piece of crap, trashy little white van, yeah, we'd have found it quicker. But we're looking for a church van with a house of God and prayer written on the side of it. And it all falls back. The breakdown where it happened was in the 911 system. If we would have stopped and had the fortitude to thought to check the calls, the 911 calls, investigate those a little deeper, they didn't really have time to do that. We're Monday morning quarterbacking this really bad, and I'm not trying to say they did stuff wrong. Don't get me wrong here. I'm just saying things if we could have done would have been different. But the guy describes the van as just a plain white van in the 911 call. And what happens is the dispatchers run the plates, and it comes back to the house of God in prayer and a van. So they start putting out the information. You're looking for a van, house of God in prayer on the side of it. So that's where everything went really wrong for us.
And at what point did it evolve, though? Where did it go from that white van to the actual van?
It didn't until they started shooting officers again.
In the Walmart.
In the Walmart parking lot. So when W.A. Wren and Sheriff Dick Busby pull in, and I had conversations with them, they didn't know this was a van either. This van turns out off of row 12, where another 911 call had called in and just said, hey, there's a dude acting weird on row 12. He's putting aluminum foil on his windows. And it kind of sparked the attention. Wait a minute, what are they doing? They're putting sunscreens up is what they were trying to do. They were trying to blend in the Walmart. That was the second time they were there. So when the sheriff and the chief deputy pull in, this van goes to pull out. There's not a green arrow above them going, hey, here's your bad guys. These are your bad guys. And they just pull up in a head-on traffic stop and are shot immediately. And luckily for me, I'm on the other end of the parking lot. I hear the 911 call come out. Suspects are spotted in row 12 as I'm driving by Walmart. Perfect timing. Here we go again with the doors opening and closing for me. And I pull in the parking lot. So as I turn right in front of the doors, the gunfire starts. So there is a green arrow or red arrow for me pointing at the van. These are the bad guys. Here they are right in front of you. So
and you cranked up your truck. How fast were you going when you zipped across that Walmart parking lot and rammed into their van and you're firing through your windshield?
I honestly could not tell you how fast I was going. State police estimates with damages to the vehicles and the surveillance videos at about 55 miles an hour. I didn't care how fast I was going. I was just trying to get up and amongst it.
Well, and you got there quickly and you made a crisis decision to ram their vehicle. That probably saved the sheriff and deputy or undersheriff.
Yeah, it did. It took the fire away from them. In our training in Game and Fish, they taught us to shoot through our windshield. So I knew going into that moment that, hey, I'm going to shoot through this windshield. I don't have time to roll up, get out, and engage. Why not just go ahead and start shooting through the windshield? So in my mind, I see the driver with the door open and he's shooting in between the A-pillar and the door. So I thought, I'm going to roll up, get close enough, and I'm going to pop him through this windshield. And I guess he heard me. You see him on the video. He kind of looks back behind him and gets in the van, starts backing up. He wasn't retreating. I don't believe that. I believe he was trying to get turned around for a head-on confrontation with me. What he didn't expect was me to hit him. So when he gets in the van, starts backing up, I transition to, okay, I'm going to ram you. I'm going to stop this vehicle. You're not getting out of this parking lot. We're not going into a mobile firefight, risking more lives. So that's when I made the decision to hit them. And, they're backing straight up towards me. I thought, I'm just going to ram you as hard as I can and, go from there. There at the last second, the van kind of turns. And, Michael Bay, he ruined me. I thought, I'm going to run into this dude and he's going to roll over and blow up because that's what Michael Bay's taught us. If you've been in the movie, you know how it works.
In the movies.
Yeah. I thought, I'm going to ram you or you'll roll over and blow up. Well, he didn't. It was immediate. Driver turns around with what I know now is a Taurus judge. It looked like an RPG when you're looking down the angry eye of it. And that's where I engaged my first 2 rounds through the front windshield. Um, Here again, the guardian angel. I hit the steering wheel, bent the steering wheel on my truck with my body, and was thrown into the air conditioner control system, radio air conditioner control system, which dead center of the truck. And that's where I fired my first 2 rounds, dead center of the windshield. That's where the 2 rounds struck the driver in the face. I knew the fight was over with, and I started taking the incoming rounds. Well, what he was trying to do was shoot the driver's compartment where I should have been sitting. And luckily for me, I'm dead center in the truck, and the angles, all the bullets are kind of coming at an angle across my body. So that's why I didn't take a full head-on bullet. I took shrapnel, and I had a piece of the jacket of the metal in my hip, but the rest of it was just shrapnel and plastic and glass and just crap flying through the truck, taking 12 rounds of AK through the windshield. You can imagine how much crap was flying, and I put 30 rounds of 223 back through the windshield. So there was a lot of particles flying through the truck for 17.
Lot of blasting, man. That's just some crazy shit. But I'll tell you what, after all of that, Mike, what's the most memorable experience after that incident, as far as somebody that said something to you, called you, wrote you a letter, approached you? What's the most memorable thing?
Oh wow, man, there's so many. There's so many. I think probably Bobby Paudert coming to the scene and hugging me. That I'd say that one probably stands out the most.
Just at that same day, right
Yes.
after the incident.
Yeah. It was right after that. And now my memory's blurred, like I said earlier, but I don't remember if it was before I went to the hospital or after I got back. I think it was after I got back from the hospital, because once they released me, it was a few hours after the shooting. They cleaned me up, glued my head back up. The wife at the time, I told her, I said, hey, run me up to Walmart. I need to get some stuff out of my truck. I wasn't thinking I wasn't going to be able to get anywhere near that truck. I remember pulling up on that scene, and the reality set in real quick of this is bad. My thought patterns. Well, I'm gonna get fired for this one for sure. I just shot 2 people in Walmart parking lot in broad daylight. This isn't going to go well. And when I walked up on scene, I remember it was like the record stopped, and everybody turned around and looked at me, and I thought, "Yep, I'm going to jail." Here we go.
But everybody turned around and looked at you because they were all going, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't see it that way at the time, but yeah, I thought this is bad.
Yeah, who would do?
Mike, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of in your life?
Oh, wow. My family is what I'm most proud of.
And you.
First. Yeah. And I am proud that I was able to rise to the occasion, because in these critical incidents, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're either going to fall to your level of training, or you're going to rise to your level of training. And, that's on you. You got to be the decider of that. And luckily for me, I was able to rise to my level of training. And it's not been a one and done situation. I've been in multiple situations where, you second guess yourself. Sometimes you think, dang, could I do it again? I think I could do it again, but could I? And I've been tried and true, quite a few times. Matter of fact, there was a T-shirt at Tent City that said "Send me" on it. I didn't buy it. I was like, no, I've been
You don't want to be sent anymore.
They already sent you. Yeah.
I'll still go, but yeah, let's let some of these younger guys do it now.
Mike, as we get ready to close, an amazing story, but I've got to ask you, so many officers that have been in officer-involved shootings that have maybe had to take the life of another human being as you did, they deservedly so, but nevertheless, it's still always with you that you had to take another human life, and you referred to that earlier. A lot of those officers quit the profession, right? They don't want to go back. They can't go back. You did. And you not only went back, but here you are, 16 years later, and now you're a sheriff, and you still got many more years probably in you in the law enforcement profession. Why did you make that decision to go back?
I had a buddy that was with me through a lot of that, and we were doing training, and he told me, because I was considering getting out, and he said, "Look," he said, "the story that you have is powerful." He said, "You're helping a lot of other cops, and cops want to hear from cops. They don't want to hear from has-beens or things like that." And that really motivated me. Okay, if I want to continue my story and continue helping other officers, you got to stay in the game. You got to stay relevant. You got to stay part of it. And that's what kept me going for a long time. Honestly, is I want to make sure that I can do everything I can to help save officers as long as I can. As long as somebody wants to hear the story, I'm going to tell it. And that's been the driving factor for years.
Love it. Last question. When people see your truck in the National Law Enforcement Museum and hear that story, when they see the names of Brandon Paudert and Bill Evans on the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, what would you like people to take away from that experience?
That's somebody's brother, son, father. Those aren't just names. Every one of those names, those are not just names. Those are lives. Those are people's family. But these guys, these are real people. These are real people that put their lives out there to save other lives. And don't ever forget that. Don't just walk by. Yeah, there's a name, there's a name, there's a name. Every one of those names have a story of a lifetime attached to them. And if it touches you, read up on them. They're all on the website. Most of them all are, I'm sure. Go on there, pull that name up, read their story, find out what really went on in their lives.
And your story, Mike, is an inspiration for many, many people and will be for years to come.
I hope so. I hope it helps a lot of people. That's for sure. And I think you guys, you two guys have been a major part of this. So, and I appreciate everything y'all have done for me. That's for sure.
You're the man, baby.
Yeah. It's been our honor and our pleasure to get to know Mike Neal. And I'm so glad we got to share your story here today with our audience. Mike, there's a inscription on the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, and I know you've seen it many times. It says, "It is not how these officers died that made them heroes. It is how they lived."
Right.
And I think that's such an important sentiment that, okay, we're going to always honor people like Bill Evans and Brandon Paudert. They're going to live forever because we're going to continue to see their names on a national monument, and we're going to go across the street to the National Law Enforcement Museum and hear their stories and see your truck and know that there are men and women among us who are willing to risk their lives, put their lives at risk for the safety and the protection of others. And that's such an important part of that National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and that museum experience. And I hope, if you haven't already visited the memorial and the museum, I hope you will do so, members of our audience, because it is inspirational. It will change you, the way you look at your own life, to know that there are men and women that have laid down their lives for others. And Mike, I think your story is the epitome of law enforcement and what it means to me, the men and women whose courage and compassion for others allows them to do the things that you did in a moment that is just so amazing to even think about. This is the conclusion of Heroes Behind the Badge, today's podcast. It is produced by Citizens Behind the Badge, the leading voice of the American people in support of law enforcement. And I hope you go to our website, behindthebadge.org, and you'll hear stories like Mike Neal's. You'll hear stories of the men and women who've made the ultimate sacrifice, and you'll learn how you can support the men and women in law enforcement by becoming a supporter of Citizens Behind the Badge. So, Mike Neal, thank you, my friend. It's been an honor and a pleasure as always.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all so much.